And cheap shotting C in the throat, like if she did that to any of our teammates, we'd be pissed. But like they're definitely targeting her, and the league and the refs do.
Internet is not a real place, so I think when you treat the internet like a real place, that's when you get everybody like, oh my god. But it's like, bro, you don't know these people in real life. Just press the block button, bro. Just press the block button and then move on. Like
about the suspension, if that's what they felt was necessary in that moment, then so be it. But I think there's a lot of other plays that you can say the same about. I think the biggest thing is it's just about our safety. We're so concerned about the safety on the court, but time and time again we're having people threatening our lives, leaking addresses out there, putting crazy pictures that have nothing to do with basketball. So at some point the league needs to put a stand on it. They came out with no hate speech, but I mean, what is that going to do? At some point, time and time again players are going through this and the league remains silent. So I'm sick and tired of it, and it's time for them to step up and have our backs in this instance.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we are witnessing in the WNBA right now is not basketball. It is an absolute disgrace. It is a systematic, orchestrated, and blatant attack on the only player who is actually paying the bills for this entire league, Caitlin Clark. You thought the jealousy was bad before. You thought the cheap shots were just rookies getting initiated. Think again. We have reached a boiling point. The dam has broken. The WNBA is in a full-blown crisis, and the players are finally turning on each other because the front office is too cowardly to step in. The mask is off and the entire world is finally seeing the dark, toxic underbelly of a league that would rather destroy its golden goose than admit they were wrong. Get ready, because what you are about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about this season. Let's stop pretending and let's stop gaslighting the millions of new fans who tuned in to watch basketball and instead got a front row seat to a street fight. On June 24th, during the Fever vs Mercury game, we saw one of the most disgusting, intentional, and malicious acts on a basketball court in recent history. Alyssa Thomas didn't just foul Caitlin Clark. She didn't just set a hard screen or play aggressive defense. She waited until Clark was on the ground, completely vulnerable, and then intentionally drove a closed fist straight into her throat. But she didn't stop there. She followed it up by kneeing her in the midsection. Two separate calculated acts of violence.
When we play Indy in the playoffs, same thing, but not to this extent. Our families are being threatened, kids are being threatened, people are sending racial slurs and all types of stuff. And there's a difference between trolling and there's a difference between hatred. And the hatred that we're experiencing over a play that honestly was a complete accident. No one even knew it happened. It's just unfortunate, but yeah, the league has to do better in this instance.
And where were the referees? Where was the whistle? This is where the story goes from a dirty play to a full-blown conspiracy. Referee Jenna Schroeder was standing less than 10 feet away. She had a completely unobstructed view. No players in the way. No blind spots. The broadcast cameras catch Schroeder staring directly at the impact, directly at the fist making contact with Clark's throat. And what does she do? Absolutely nothing. The WNBA wants you to believe that a professionally trained referee simply missed a closed fist punch in broad daylight. You and I both know the math doesn't add up. It's not incompetence anymore. It is complicated.
I didn't even know I was being suspended until 10 minutes before it was put on social media. We still have yet to hear anything from Kathy. It's no surprise. You can see what's being said on social media, and it's unfortunate, but as usual, she remains silent, and that's unfortunate when our lives are a bit.
1 game suspension. 1 game for assault on a basketball court. If this were the NBA, if Draymond Green had done this, he would be sitting out for a month and losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. But in the WNBA, the message is crystal clear. If you want to take out the golden goose, if you want to physically abuse Caitlin Clark, the cost of doing business is just 1 game. It is a massive green light for every enforcer in the league to take their best shot. The WNBA isn't stopping the violence. They are actively subsidizing it. But here is where the plot twists. Here is where the WNBA's narrative crumbles entirely. Because it wasn't just fans screaming at their televisions. It wasn't just sports analysts demanding justice. The call came from inside the house. Sophie Cunningham, a veteran player, a teammate of the very people trying to sweep this under the rug, couldn't take it anymore. She stepped up to the microphone, fully aware that she was risking a heavy fine, and she dropped an absolute nuke on the league. She didn't use coded language. She didn't play the PR game. She looked right into the camera and told the world exactly what was going on behind closed doors. Listen to the raw frustration in Cunningham's voice. She said they are literally kneeling and cheaping Caitlyn in the throat. She said if someone did that to one of her teammates, they would be furious. She confirmed what every single one of us has been screaming for months. Caitlyn Clark is being specifically targeted and the referees are deliberately looking the other way. This isn't just an irritation for Sophie. This is a damning indictment of the entire officiating structure of the WNBA. When a player breaks the locker room code to defend an opposing star, you know the corruption has reached unprecedented and dangerous levels. Now, you would think that after being caught on high-define camera throwing a punch to the windpipe, Alyssa Thomas would show a shred of remorse. You would think she would issue an apology, keep her head down, and take her slap on the wrist like a professional. But no, in a move so predictable you could set your watch to it, Alyssa Thomas decided to play the ultimate victim card. She marched up to the podium, completely unapologetic, and tried to spin the narrative to make herself look like the martyr. She didn't talk about the punch. She didn't talk about the cheap shot. She complained about the internet. The absolute audacity to assault a defenseless player and then demand sympathy because people are calling you out on social media is mind-boggling. Thomas claimed the play was a complete accident. An accident? You accidentally form a fist and accurately strike a player's windpipe. She looked at the cameras and claimed that they are being painted as thugs. No, Alyssa, you aren't being painted as anything. You painted that picture yourself the moment you decided to treat a basketball game like a backyard street fight. She actually demanded that the league step in and censor the fans. She wants free speech squashed to protect her own feelings while taking zero accountability for her own violent actions. And it wasn't just Thomas. The entire Mercury organization circled the wagons to protect this indefensible behavior. Head coach Nate Tibbetts sat in front of the media and tried to Jedi mind trick the entire country. He literally said it was ridiculous to call them cheap shots. He told fans not to rely on social media screenshots. Think about that for a second. The coach of a professional basketball team is telling you not to believe the high-defined video evidence that you watched with your own two eyes. It is textbook gaslighting. They want to alter reality rather than admit they have a dirty player on their roster. Team loyalty has officially blinded them to basic human decency. But the biggest villain in this entire saga isn't Alyssa Thomas. It isn't Jenna Schroeder. It is the commissioner of the WNBA, Kathy Angelbert. Where is the leadership? Where is the protection for the player who is literally transforming this league from a financial black hole into a global phenomenon? Angelbert's silence isn't just deafening, it is complicit. Sophie Cunningham didn't hold back on the commissioner either. She exposed the ugly truth that the WNBA front office is terrified to admit. Kathy Angelbert is actively suppressing Caitlyn Clark's star power because of her own fragile ego. Cunningham pointed out the ultimate disrespect, the WNBA's 30-year commemoration poster, a poster designed to celebrate the past, present, and future of the league. And who was mysteriously missing? Caitlyn Clark, the player who brought 3.2 million viewers to the broadcast. The player who boosted merchandise sales by a staggering 170%. The player who is single-handedly selling out arenas in cities that couldn't give away tickets for free just 1 year ago. They slapped random role players on the poster, including Sophie Cunningham herself, and completely erased the biggest draw in the history of women's sports. It is not an oversight. It is an intentional, petty, and jealous boycott. Sophie Cunningham nailed it. Kathy Angelbert wants the credit for the league's success. She wants the narrative to be about her brilliant leadership and the league's natural expansion. She is threatened by a 22-year-old rookie stealing the spotlight and proving that the product wasn't selling until she arrived. It is the only explanation that makes sense. A competent commissioner would be riding this wave to the bank. A competent commissioner would be promoting Clark on every billboard in every commercial and mandating that referees protect her from flagrant abuse. Instead, Engelbert is treating her multi-million-dollar asset like a problem that needs to be buried. Even the absolute legends of the game can't stomach this anymore. The old guard is starting to realize that this toxic jealousy is going to ruin the sport for everyone. Lisa Leslie, a 3-time MVP, 4-time Olympic gold medalist, an absolute icon of the game, finally broke her silence. Leslie knows what physical basketball looks like. She played in an era where the paint was a literal war zone. But she knows the difference between playing tough and trying to injure a fellow player. Leslie publicly stated that officiating in this situation was a massive failure. When Lisa Leslie calls out your referees, you have a systemic disaster on your hands. As Lisa Leslie pointed out, there has always been an unwritten code in basketball. You play hard, you compete, and sometimes things get physical. But if you accidentally hit someone in the face, you apologize. You check on them. You make sure they are okay. You show the world that there was no malicious intent. Alyssa Thomas did none of that. She threw the strike, kneed her in the groin, and walked away without a single backward glance. The intent was to hurt, to intimidate, and to physically break the rookie. The WNBA's failure to recognize this malicious intent is an insult to the legends who built this game on respect and true competition. And let's not forget the most absurd part of this entire fiasco. Caitlin Clark gets a technical foul for simply reacting to the abuse. And when Sophie Cunningham rightfully approaches the referee to ask why the instigator wasn't punished, what happens? The referee slaps Cunningham with a technical foul just for pointing. No yelling, no cursing, just pointing a finger. The officials are handing out technical fouls for hand gestures while allowing closed fist punches to the throat to go unpunished. They are making up the rules on the fly. And the only consistency is that Caitlin Clark always gets the short end of the stick. It is a masterclass in terrible officiating. The WNBA is ignoring sports history, and it is going to cost them their entire future. In the 1980s, the NBA faced the exact same problem. The Detroit Pistons created the Jordan rules, a brutal defensive strategy designed to physically batter Michael Jordan every single time he drove to the basket. They tried to beat the superstar out of him. But the NBA realized that if they let the Pistons break Michael Jordan, they would break the league's financial future. The NBA stepped in. They changed the officiating. They protected their star because they knew Jordan's success was the NBA's success. The WNBA has its Michael Jordan right now, and they are feeding her to the wolves. Think about the catastrophic message this sends to the next generation of female athletes. Right now, top college superstars like Paige Bucher, Guju Watkins, and Hannah Hidalgo are watching this unfold. They are seeing the most popular player in the country get choked, punched, knee-checked, and eye-poked while the league shrugs its shoulders. They are watching the commissioner erase her from promotional materials. Why would any generational talent want to enter a league that refuses to protect its stars? Why would they risk their careers, their health, and their personal brands to play in an organization that actively rewards violence and penalizes greatness? The time for excuses is officially over. A one-game suspension is a slap in the face to every fan who bought a ticket or tuned in on television. It is an insult to the integrity of the sport. Alyssa Thomas should have been handed a 5-game minimum suspension, accompanied by a very public statement from Kathy Angelbert drawing a hard, unforgiving line in the sand. But they didn't. And because they didn't, the WNBA remains a league run by petty jealousy, incompetent referees, and cowardly leadership. Caitlin Clark doesn't need to change her game. Sophie Cunningham doesn't need to apologize for telling the truth. The WNBA needs to wake up before they destroy the greatest gift they have ever been given. If you are sick and tired of watching Caitlin Clark get abused while the league plays dumb, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let your voice be heard in the comments right now. Do you think Alyssa Thomas should have been banned for the rest of the season? Do you think Kathy Angelbert needs to resign from her position as commissioner? sound off below. We won't be silenced and we won't stop calling out corruption. Keep your eyes open because the truth is always hiding in plain sight. Until next time, stay sharp, stay loud, and we will see you in the next